Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yaqub is optimistic about resolution of election sequence controversy, promises to probe underage voting in Kano. Civil society organizations begin campaign to sensitize citizens to participate in voter registration exercise. President Muhammadu Buhari meets with some APC governors visiting his hometown, Daura in Katsina State. And Special Investigating Counsel indicts 13 Russians for allegedly interfering in the US 2016 election. And on business news tonight, Minister of Finance Kemi Adeosun reiterates federal government's plan to increase tax to GDP ratio by 2020.
And on sports news tonight, Roger Federer reclaims world #1 spot after reaching the semi-finals of the World's Tennis Tournament in Rotterdam.
From Abuja, not too young to run bill campaigners ask lawmakers and President Buhari to complete process of signing the proposed legislation within 30 days.
We begin tonight with the optimism of the electoral umpire, Professor Mahmood Yaqub, that the disagreement over the sequence of the 2019 general elections will be resolved. It's exactly 1 year to the 2019 polls, but there are controversies trailing certain arrangements in the run-up to the exercise. The National Assembly is pushing to amend the Electoral Act and reorder the sequence as against INEC's plan. Our political correspondent, Sheung Okimbaloye, reports.
Exactly a year from now, it will be time for the 2019 general elections. The electoral umpire may not look under pressure, but certainly are not unaware of the enormity of the task ahead. And so senior staff of the Electoral Commission are in Lagos on a workshop they tagged the 2019 election project implementation. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yaqub, clears the air on some of the controversies on the ground. First, he talks about alleged violations of the electoral process with report of underage voting in Kano LG elections.
I can also confirm that a soft copy of the register was made available to the state. The voter register in Kano State is the one used for the 2015 general election. That election conducted by INEC, no single incidence of underage voter was recorded. What therefore happened in the last local government election conducted by the State Electoral Commission? Was the voter register actually used or not? We wish to assure Nigerians that the matter will be fully investigated. A national commissioner from INEC will lead a team to Kano next week.
The commission also gave an update on the ongoing voter registration exercise. INEC says from July to December 2017, 3,978,682 citizens were registered afresh nationwide, while 135,127 unclaimed permanent voter cards were collected. For fresh registrants, gender distribution shows 58% male and 42% female. The data also shows that Rivers State recorded the highest number of new registrants, followed by Delta and Lagos states, while Kwara, Gombe and Ondo states record the lowest. A lot of Nigerians who have been following the debate over election sequence may like to know how INEC will handle the matter. Here is Professor Yakubu's take.
Our position at the moment is that the current timetable and schedule of activities released on 9th January 2018 is consistent with the powers of the Commission under existing laws. We will study any amendments to the existing legal framework and take appropriate action within the ambit of the law.
365 days may seem far away, but the realities and the challenges are real. Beyond the preparations of the umpire is a need for voters to also play their own part. Sheung Okimbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, civil society groups have stormed some states of the Federation to heighten the campaign for voter registration towards the 2019 general elections. The groups are asking Nigerians to take the exercise seriously in order to be empowered to vote for their preferred candidates. Channels Television monitored the Enlightenment campaigns.
Co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls and coordinator of One Voice Nigeria, Aisha Yesufu, addresses members of the One Voice Nigeria ahead of the 2019 elections. The issue is simple. Nigerians must participate fully in the ongoing continuous voters registration in order to be part of making a choice for the next crop of leaders at the polls.
People need to understand what the power that they have, that their PVC is their voice, their vote is their voice, and we all need to come out, most especially women.
Samson Itodo is also a member of the group. He laments the low collection rate of the permanent voters' cards by Nigerians who already registered.
We are taking action to get citizens to go get registered to vote, to collect their permanent voters card, because since return to democracy, we've been battling with raising turnout rates to over 50%. In 2015 and 2011, it was less than 50%. In Anambra, turnout was about 21%, and that's quite worrisome.
Members of the civil society group in Ogun State stormed major streets and marketplaces in Abeokuta, the state capital, mobilizing residents to register and collect their permanent voters card, PVC. They say it is imperative in order to ensure quality representation at the polls and make the choices at all levels of government that would address the socio-economic and political challenges facing the country.
The major objective actually is to get a lot of people to be on ground, a lot of people to be involved in the electoral process. And the only way you can get involved in the electoral process is to get your voter's card. And that is why we are on the streets
24 hours before election.
In Niger State in the north, this group is called Reclaim Niger, and their concern is for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to expand the coverage of the ongoing continuous voters registration to accommodate eligible voters in the rural areas.
This is the right time that we want to let everybody aware that you must go for your registration, because if you register, that will give you a power as a citizen of Nigeria to vote a credible leadership. Because you don't have a right to vote in Nigeria, you don't have a card to vote, you cannot be able to make any complaint about anybody that you vote in as a leader. So it is right to let people to aware that INEC is open for everybody.
The INEC Administrative Secretary in Niger State, Awal Mashi, assures that nobody will be disenfranchised, while insisting that the election timetable released by INEC still stands.
This is the right time to do what you are doing. A lot of people do not seem to realize the importance of this exercise. Even though there are rumors that have been going on around that the exercise is coming off very, very shortly. It's not true. The law says that continuous voter registration should go on until 60 days before election.
Perhaps the more the sensitization, the better the real deal at the polls by 2019. So far, INEC says it has registered over 70 million eligible voters for the next election.
Now let's take a look at the level of preparedness of the umpire and the electorate exactly 1 year to the 2019 elections. Joining me now from Abuja is the Executive Director, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clem Wankwo. Thanks for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much.
Now, all eyes tend to turn to INEC when election season beckons. What's your assessment of their state of preparedness as at today?
Well, I think there are timelines, and that's part of the conversations that INEC has been having its election project plan, where it indicates timelines and benchmarks and working towards 2019. Clearly, from what we have seen, INEC seems to be on course. It is currently trying to update the voters register, capture all of those who are not captured. and hopefully begin to issue the permanent voters cards that have resulted from this process in May. So hopefully the election voters register would be ready within the timelines that INEC has indicated and within the timelines allowed in the law. I think that looking at all of the other preparations as well and going by INEC's project plan, our sense is that INEC is on course, and we're quite confident that it is a commission that is determined to deliver on citizens' expectations.
Yeah, they are trying to do that update, but already there are complaints that INEC needs to do a better job of educating the public on the registration exercise. And I'm saying that because there are some of them who've said they already have their PVCs, but they've changed address over time. What should the Commission be doing in this regard to make the process simpler and for people to understand what to do even when they come out to either get registered or to update their details?
I think there's a lot of responsibility on INEC to provide awareness on what people should do, because increasingly I think people are a bit confused. As you can see, the mobilization across the country is very high. I think that people need to know that they shouldn't register twice. I think INEC needs to provide that information. I think that people need to know that they can request INEC to move from a particular area to somewhere else where they have shifted residencies or location. So all of that information is the responsibility of INEC, but also of the political parties, of civil society, and all of the country to ensure that information is available to citizens. But I think going beyond all of this as well is looking at the timelines for the different activities, whether it is on the part of the political parties to ensure that they carry out their primaries in a free and fair manner, transparent as well, but also in terms of citizens' awareness of the importance of coming out to vote. It's a huge responsibility on all of us, and my sense looking at 2019 is that citizens are very, very energized and very, very mobilized, ready to cast their votes. The responsibility on INEC is high, and we're looking forward and expecting that INEC will live up to the expectations on it.
Well, finally, let me ask you, and you were talking about timelines there. Would you weigh in on the debate regarding the sequence of elections, given the time that we have left for primaries, for congresses, for campaigning, etc.? Should the Electoral Act be tinkered with in election season? What do you think?
Best practice is that you should have the law settled at least 12 months before the elections. Today is 12 months to the elections. The law has not been signed by the president. The National Assembly has just passed that law, and it hasn't forwarded it to the president as we speak. I think it would go against the grain of best practice for laws to be tinkered with 12 months to an election. And I think that the National Assembly should have taken into into account the concern we all have about reducing the cost of elections. Previously, it was 2 sequenced elections. Now it seems, if it is interpreted at face value, that it could result in 3 days of elections. The cost of this would really be quite high for the country, and I think that we really need to revisit the issue. There's nothing wrong with the National Assembly making laws on sequence. I think that the National Assembly should have made it such that all legislative elections are bunched into one sequence and all the executive elections into one sequence, such that you have national and state legislative elections on the one day and subsequently governorship and presidential elections on the other day. And I think that this controversy would have been removed if the National Assembly had acted in this direction, but that didn't happen, and I think that's why you have this controversy. But certainly the motive behind it is quite understandable.
All right, Executive Director, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clem Wankwa, thanks for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you, Jama.
President Muhammadu Buhari has been meeting with some APC governors in his hometown, Daura, in Katsina State. The chairman of the APC Governors Forum and Imo State Governor Rocha Sokorocha led the governors to the meeting, which was held behind closed doors. Governor Okorocha told journalists that the governors were in Daura to commiserate with the president over the loss of 2 members of his extended family. Some of those in attendance include the governors of Kogi, Niger, Borno and Nasarawa states. Others include governors of Kaduna, Sokoto, Kwara and Oyo states. In part 2, after the break, former Ekiti State Senator Ayo Arishe declares intention to vie for the APC ticket for the July governorship election. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.